Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today I'm going to be playing Rule the Waves. It's going to be part 5, I believe it is, of my Let's Play of the series. In the last video we played through the year 1900, we got the game started, and we just kind of basically cruised through the year. Tensions with Great Britain did increase a bit, which is a little bit concerning considering they're building 2 battleships for us. And if we do get on too unfriendly of terms, they could impound them or go to war with us. At this point, a war with Great Britain is out of the question. We would get absolutely stomped and have no hope of victory. So we need to make sure that we avoid that at all cost. The one thing is you do have to be careful of prestige down here, because if you do try and be too peaceful, you lose prestige, and then as you lose prestige, it increases the likelihood of you being deposed or removed from your command. We have expanded our dock size up to 12,000 tons. It started at 10,000, and that's, as someone pointed out in the comments of the last video, that's one of the most important things that you can do in this game is get that dock size up. Because while this early period battleships aren't too big, they're usually 13,000, 14,000 tons, obviously, or even 15,000. Obviously, we can't build a 14,000 ton battleship domestically anyway. So we're at the whims of other countries allowing us to build ships in their yards. So that's one problem. The other problem, which then makes us, beholden to their own national interests as far as making sure that we don't go to war with them. The other concern also is that as technology advances and ship displacement begins to increase, you're going to run the risk of not being able to build the types of ships you need to build if you don't upgrade your dock size. Even the British, who start with 16,000 ton docks, have to expand their docks if they want to have any chance of building a dreadnought battleship, which is closer to around 20,000 tons. Now, if we look at the almanac, it'll actually give us an update, and it will show us, I think the almanac shows that. Yep, it'll show us the British have actually upgraded their dock size to 19,000 tons, so they've already begun doing that. Meanwhile, we've upgraded our docks to 12,000 tons, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to build another new dock station. We're going to spend $3.2 million of our $10 million in funds on building larger docks. Luckily, right now with our monthly balance, that still leaves us, we'll recover nicely from that. So we're going to be increasing our dock size again because we still can't build the battleships that we've designed, the Shakishima class, until we do that. Another aspect that some people were asking about in the comments was the research. So how does research budget work? Well, this basically is 9% of our total budget, our total naval budget. So if I increase this to 10, you'll actually see the available funds will begin to drop. So if I do that, you'll see the monthly balance drops by a little bit. Increasing the funds obviously allows you to research things a little bit quicker at the expense of not being able to build quite as many ships. Now, another thing is you can see here we haven't gotten too much success yet in terms of research. We have researched fire control, which gives us better range finders, and we've also researched improved surface condensers. If we're curious what that means, we can go ahead and we can right-click. We'll get a couple of options. We could increase the priority of this research area, so machinery development, we increase it to priority high. That'll make it research faster relative to the other topics. You don't set an individual budget for each of these items. It's just reflected based on your overall research budget. And then, again, if you go ahead and you right-click, you'll see that you get options as far as prioritizing research, and you can get a little bit more information by left-clicking on it. You can go into the details, and you'll see here that we have the improved surface condenser. Gives you a 1% weight savings on machinery. So, for example, we could build a faster ship with requiring less tonnage, which is going to be important as well as things goes on and ships get heavier and heavier. Those are the only 2 items we've researched so far. One thing I do want to make sure, since we are building our docks up, I want to make sure we begin researching naval guns. Now we haven't, our 10-inch guns are low quality, same as our 7-inch guns are both -1. You can't choose which guns you want to research specifically, but we can go ahead and we can choose naval guns to be a high priority in terms of researching. So hopefully that'll help. One of the other things that I do want to make sure that I also research is turret and gun mounting to make sure that we have better effective turrets. Some of our medium turrets right now can't actually fire as quickly as they should because our technology is too low. So double turreted turrets that are below 8 inches, for example, have a rate of fire penalty. So I want to go ahead and research that as well. So we're going to set both of these to high. Now looking through and seeing, what we might want to drop down, I think what I would say is, as far as what we can drop down, I think I'll drop anti-submarine warfare technology down to low because no one has submarines yet. Now that does risk us falling behind when submarines do come out, but at least as far as that's concerned, I'll drop that down to low. I'm also thinking we can drop submarines down to low. Based on our location, I think surface raiders are going to be more valuable, and the odds of an enemy deploying a huge surface fleet to totally bottle up our cruisers is more limited than if we were in Europe, for example, because the British aren't going to deploy their whole fleet to the Pacific, and frankly, if we go to war with the British, we're screwed anyway. So I think for Japan, a submarine-based fleet is a little bit less valuable than perhaps another country because we do have a better chance of getting our cruisers out and acting as commerce raiders without needing to use submarines. So we'll go ahead and we'll lower that down to low as well to compensate for setting these two items to high. And then we'll just kind of leave things as is there. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll leave things there at the 10%. Those are the adjustments we're going to make to research. Someone also asked about the Intel budget. Oh, actually, they asked about research. So Intel, again, is just decided by this little slider down here. Now, we have 2 ships under construction right now. If we look at the almanac here in early 1901, 2 battleships puts us almost last. The French have only 1 that they're building, and the same for the Italians, but they all have substantially larger battleship fleets than us. So it might be a wise idea to construct another one. In addition to that, we have no heavy cruisers building either, and again, we risk falling behind everyone there, or at least tied with the U.S., but they have 3 under construction. Light cruisers were in better shape, and destroyers were in very good shape, so we don't need to build anything there at all, I don't think. Now, I would consider designing a new ship, but frankly, we haven't researched enough to warrant a new class of ship, and it does cost a little bit of money when you design new ships in the middle of a game. So if we were to go ahead and start designing ships, you'd have like an initial research penalty for the very first time. And again, we haven't really introduced a whole lot of new features yet, so I think we'll keep our ships where they're at. That's one thing that I wish the game did a little bit differently. The fact that your entire fleet starts at 1899 quality ships means that everybody in the world has a very modern fleet at the start of the game. And that simply wasn't the fact historically. For example, the Italians had a large number of ships that were still left over from the 1870s and 1860s even, with some old ironclad type ram ships, which meant that the fleet was far less effective. And, as I mentioned before, you can mothball or put fleets or ships into reserve, but there's really no point in doing that at the moment because our budget is okay, and frankly, all of our ships are modern. There's no reason to do that. And I kind of worry it's going to take 5 or 6 years in game until ships really start becoming obsolete as kind of the Dreadnought era rolls in, and I think that kind of limits the utility of those features and takes an element away from the game that otherwise I wish was there. With that said, yeah, let's go ahead and let's construct some ships. So we're going to go ahead and build a ship. We're going to go ahead and build the Asima class heavy cruisers. The cost you see here is going to be $36 million over the life of the construction. That's $1.4 million per month. And you can see we have enough roughly to build 3 at a time, given that we have 3 battleships that'll be coming, or some battleships that'll be coming off the ways soon. I think we can go ahead and we can risk being in the red because, again, we have a battleship done in 5 months. By the time that comes up, we'll be back in the black before we run out of money. So then we're going to go ahead and construct 3 Ashama class heavy cruisers, and they will be built in Great Britain because that's where they're designed. Even though we have the dock size that allows us to build it, we don't have the ability to build them in Great Britain. Although I do wonder, if we load this cruiser. So we load this cruiser here, which is being designed and built in Great Britain. I wonder if we can change it to a local yard. Okay. Ships are built to this design. Cannot overwrite the design. Well, that's lame. Okay, so I guess I can't do that. You can open the design for a rebuild. Rebuild design save as Ashama R1901. So we can do that. Oh, but that wouldn't... That would just rebuild the ship that's already been constructed. So we're not going to do that. Okay, so you can basically modernize a ship by rebuilding it. So that was similar to what happened with a lot of the U.S. battleships between World War I and World War II, when some of those naval treaties came into effect and really limited what you could do as far as building new ships. A lot of the old World War I era dreadnoughts were rebuilt and modernized, as is much the case today, where you have a lot of ships that are modernized halfway through their life cycle to give them, you know, more modern equipment to make them state of the art again. Since you've still got a really good hull, it saves you money to do that. We're not going to do that. Obviously, these ships are only 2 years old, and there's only been a few changes as far as technology is concerned, so there's really no stake in doing a rebuild. So I guess at this point, we'll just go ahead and we'll build three... But I guess I can... So I didn't rebuild the ship, but it still lets me have a rebuild, a 1901 version of the ship. So I think we're going to do that, and then I believe that'll allow us to... Actually, that cuts cost, too. It costs a little bit less to build the ship, perhaps because of some of those technological developments, like the weight saving, means that... Actually, oh my goodness... Let's look at the rebuild. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just kind of interested by what's different about the redesign. Okay. 23 tons. I don't see any differences, except that the rebuild is built in Japan. So I guess the fact that it's built domestically will save us some money, which would make sense. You don't have to pay a contractor overseas to build it. You can build it domestically. So we'll go ahead and we'll build 3 of those. It's going to save us about $500,000, so it looks like that was a good decision. The maintenance costs are also a little bit lower as well, again, owing to the fact that it is a redesign. Now, it does give you a penalty, basically, because it's the first ship of a new class. Again, there's that $2.7 million penalty for... essentially building ships that are brand new. I'm trying to decide if it's worth it. At this point, we haven't paid anything for the redesign. So I think here's what we're going to do. Sorry for kind of stumbling around here, guys. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if I can... Okay, so we just deleted the redesign of the ship. And then we're just going to build 3 of the traditional ones. Again, it'll be a little more expensive, but I don't want to pay $2 million for essentially an identical ship when it's just a couple $100,000 more to build it in Great Britain. The only risk, again, is that we're now building ships in Great Britain that are going to take 2 years to build, and our tensions with them are higher than anyone else. And it seems like kind of once you get into a cycle where a nation's tension level begins to rise, you kind of get stuck. It's kind of like a rivalry starts, and then you have difficulty reining that rivalry in and getting things back on track and lowering tensions. So it's almost like once a nation gets to a certain point of tensions, you have no way to essentially get yourself out. It's almost like a fatal funnel that leads to war. But there you go. We've got 3 armored cruisers under construction now, as well as 2 battleships. That stands us in a little bit better stead if we compare where we're at in terms of the arms race. Puts us right kind of in the middle of the road as far as our armored cruisers being constructed. Our battleships were still trailing, but it is what it is. So we'll go ahead and fast forward. You can see we've got a cruiser that just finished working up, and we had a research breakthrough in our turrets and gun mounting. We researched hydraulic recoil. So again, you can see that accelerating of the turrets research paid off immediately, which is kind of cool. And you can see here some more ships being laid down by some other countries as we move into February. So if we go and we take a look At the research calendar there, you can see here the hydraulic recoil has been researched, which is going to be important in terms of rate of fire. If we go ahead and we right-click on that, we'll see the details. Hydraulic recoil, gradual national rate of fire improvements. So that's really good in terms of making sure that we have effective ships in service. You can see here we've got 4 more turns till the battleship is done. So we'll go ahead and we'll fast forward another turn. We get another cruiser finished working up. And a research breakthrough, armor development, Krupp armor, a 1% savings on armor. So Krupp armor, or Krupp steel, was a hardening technique used for steel. The steel was designed by the Krupp manufacturing company in Germany, and it replaced, I believe it replaced, older Harvey steel, which was a British technique as far as armoring steel. Now, just because it was Krupp doesn't mean that other countries didn't use it. In fact, almost all battleships by World War I had Krupp armor on them. So again, it was just a new technique that was initiated in Germany. I don't know if they got licensing fees off the artillery or not, or off the armor or not, but either way, it's just a more effective way to armor your ships. So now that we have some new technologies and designs that are really starting to come through quicker, like the hydraulic recoil, the Krupp armor, the improved surface condensers, I'm thinking we'll probably want to start designing some new ships here shortly, but we do need to wait a few turns, I would say at least until this battleship here is completed, to free up some cash to go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and jump forward another turn. Okay, so we've got an event that triggered. This is really the first kind of tension type event that came up. It says one of our cruisers has run aground on the shore of a minor nation while performing an illicit intelligence operation. They threaten to impound the ship. What's our reaction? Well, we can demand that they release the ship and send a strong squadron to underline the point. That'll give us prestige, but it also will increase tensions severely. You can see the plus mark when you hover over the section there for prestige. Means you'll get 1 benefit in prestige, but tensions will rise, I believe, by 2. We can offer a sincere apology for the navigational error, and then there's no impact on prestige, but no impact on tensions, but your prestige does go down. Or you can let them examine the ship, which increases tension a little bit, but doesn't give you any prestige. So my concern here is if we take a double hit up of prestige, I believe, or of tensions, I believe 10 is where you would trigger a war, and a 2 hit on prestige would bring Britain up to 7, which would get us dangerously close to war with Britain. And again, they have 5 ships of ours under construction right now. So I believe what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to take the prestige hit. We'll take it down to 1. And you can see here the tensions remain the same. So we're being a little bit passive. But again, I want to make sure that we're not too reckless, especially early in the war. Japan is not ready for war with anyone right now. So we'll just have to play it smart. And again, another research breakthrough. So this is really the era of massive technological improvement across the board, and Japan is really starting from scratch in terms of its research. So that research coming through gives us yet another breakthrough, which we can utilize in our designs in the future. So our budget is actually coming up a little bit. Our naval budget's coming up a little bit as our battleship's near completion. We're into April. We'll go ahead and jump forward again. And an intelligence report, new ship under construction, the Roma, has a top speed of 19 knot and belt armor of 9 inches, a new Italian battleship class, and a light cruiser as well will commission. Russia also has knowledge of improved surface condensers. Well, that's not too concerning because we do as well. And apparently intelligence is also saying that Russia has halted the construction of a battleship due to financial difficulties. So that's good for us. They may be overbuilding. And apparently there are problems in the delivery of equipment, delaying the construction of Ashai and Aso. So again, some potential drawbacks of constructing ships overseas. The Asha, for example, didn't gain at all in terms of its construction last month. Same for the Aso. And that could also be tied to our tension level being a bit higher with Great Britain. They sometimes can influence your construction, or they can outright seize the ship, which we certainly don't want to see happen. We'll go ahead and jump forward 1 more month. We can see that one of our battleships was commissioned to the Navy, and yet another research breakthrough. So we can now build destroyers up to 600 tons and light forces and torpedo warfare. So basically, it increases the size of destroyers that we can build. Previously, the limit was 500 tons. Okay, so now that we've completed that battleship, we've got 4 in service with 1 under construction. We are substantially behind everybody else in the battleship race. but I don't know how much money we have to really just keep throwing at battleships. Meanwhile, our cruisers are still under construction. We've got 3 of those being built. And again, we're not building any light cruisers right now. And actually, we're starting to fall behind in that. Great Britain has 16 in commission, and they've got 4 more. They're going to have 20 shortly to our 14. You can see here we're still a slight advantage over France and Russia and the USA, but some of them are building quite a few, so that advantage will be declining here shortly. Now, the completion of that battleship does increase our monthly balance as we move into June of 1901, so we are up to 9.2 million. And I'm trying to think here. I'm debating building a new battleship class. But I think I'm going to wait another turn or two. Again, I'd like to try and get a few more technological developments, and some of those more recent ones didn't really influence our capabilities all that much. An influential industrialist offers to support an increase in the naval budget if you'll place a larger share of shipbuilding in his shipyards. So again, this is another event that triggered in 1901. We can say it'll strengthen our Navy, it'll increase our budget, but it will hurt our prestige, so we'd get more money at the cost of our prestige, or this reeks of corruption. Such a thing would never enter my mind. Well, prestige does also, I believe, play a role in our naval budget, so maybe it's a long play, but I'll try and get that prestige back by refusing to do that. And here we are into July. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump forward. Let's see, where are we? We've got 2 more months on the other battleship. So we'll go ahead and hopefully jump forward 2 more months and then maybe begin a construction of a new battleship class. Another event triggered. So this is kind of what I meant in my last video, that we hadn't had any events trigger. Now you can see the events are really coming in fast and furious. They're really what drive the pace of the game, and they really drive the results of the game. So we can see one of our minor allies on the Asian mainland is threatened by a neighbor. What policy do you recommend? We can back our ally unconditionally, which will give us more money, but it will increase tensions. We can call an international peace conference, which will actually lower tensions across the board. And we can try to get our ally to back down and dilutes the situation, but that hurts our prestige and but also reduces tension. So I think what we're going to do, I'd like the idea of getting more money. At the same time, I'd like to reduce tensions a little bit. Tensions do also influence the naval budget as well, so that's another thing you want to keep in mind. It doesn't hurt our prestige, though, so I'm playing a long game. I don't want to lose right away. So I am going to go ahead and reduce the tensions. Oh, no! I didn't realize that would be a naval arm. I thought that was just a naval arms limitation treaty has been agreed by all the major nations. No ships of more than 15,000 tons may be built, and main caliber guns are restricted to a maximum caliber of 10 inches. The treaty will be enforced for 13 years. I didn't think that was a treaty thing. I thought that was just like a peace treaty. Okay. So the British ship's Mars under construction has been scrapped to comply with the treaty. Victorious, the French Richelieu. Huh. Really? Well, that doesn't affect us? Max caliber, 10 inches. This is a caliber of 12. Oh, and it's definitely above the 15,000. Well, there is one thing, is the country that, when you're kind of a more dictatorship or you're not a democracy, you can cheat on some of the treaty limits by up to 10%. So I wonder if that's why our ship hasn't had to be decommissioned, because it is 800 tons over the limit. It is 2 inches over the limit in terms of gun calibers. I don't know if you can cheat on gun calibers. You can see here in terms of the battleships, though, that actually caused the British to have to stop building quite a few. The French are no longer building any battleships, but apparently the Russian, US, and Italian battleships are all small enough that this doesn't affect them. Same for Germany. So Great Britain and France are the ones that are really weakened by this treaty, while we are not affected at all. So you saw there are 3 battleships. If you do agree to a treaty while you're building ships, then any ships that you're building that do violate that treaty, again, have to be scrapped, although it looks like we were able to get around that because of the type of government that we do have in place. I am curious if we're able to build a battleship, though. What happens if we order a new Shakashima? Nope, we can't build a new one because it violates the treaty caliber. So maybe next month what we'll do, because this is going to be in place for 13 years, we could look at a pocket battleship. I'm quite frustrated by the fact that this is going to severely limit what we can design in a very rapidly growing naval technology race. So this treaty is really going to shift things toward the direction of like kind of super heavy cruisers with like 10-inch guns, kind of like pocket battleships. I was hoping to, start looking at much bigger ships and bigger calibers, but we'll play it as it lays. And I think next turn what we'll do is we'll probably go ahead and we'll look at a new class of ships that we want to build as far as battleships or cruisers that'll abide by the treaty. We'll go ahead and we'll jump forward one more turn so we can finish that battleship. Still says 0 months. Guess we'll have to jump forward 2 months. Oh, and there you can see private shipbuilding is expanding, so we actually get a free 1,000-ton expansion on our dock size. And then you can also see we got the class of ship just completed, and we also just researched heavy secondary batteries, which allows us to have heavy secondary guns of heavier than 7 inches. We also researched pressure hull, so again that's an important factor as far as building submarines. So here we are right now. You can see a whole bunch of ships are being built. 5 battleships by the Russians, 5 by the US, 4 by the Italians. I wanted to fight the Russians, but they're going to have a gigantic fleet soon. The French are building none. Looks like the British are building 2 smaller ones now as a result of the treaty. And Germany's building 3. So with the completion of that ship, frees up some more money. You can see the Naval Arms Treaty did lower our monthly balance that we had to play with. That's because treaties like that do influence your budgets. Politicians don't like to spend money when there's a treaty that says that people can't build a ship above a certain size. Why on earth would we, bother worrying about building those ships? So anyway, you can see we've got 3 cruisers still under construction. They're a little bit of ways away. And then I think next turn we'll probably build a pocket battleship of some kind. Although, the nice thing is at least this early in the game, a 15,000-ton battleship is still not super small. It'll just be maybe a little undergunned, but we can offset that by making it a little bit faster. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I think what I'll do is I'll cut this video off here, and then I'm going to go ahead and maybe look at designing a new ship to comply with the treaty that was put into place. And I guess that shows you don't let other nations sign treaties because that can limit you. In the end, I think it'll probably benefit us more than the other powers, which are more advanced in terms of shipbuilding at this point than us. But we made quite a bit of progress on our own ship design as well. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you tuning in, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.